Kids have been back in school in fall schedules for about a month now, but for some, the social side of things still feels overwhelming. So how do you know if it's just shyness or something more like social anxiety? Therapist Alicia Villa with the Center for Integrative Counseling and Psychology is here to help. Good morning to you. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get right to it. So how do we know if our child is experiencing social anxiety versus just typical shyness that we see in a lot of kids?
Yeah, so shyness usually starts off as kind of some anxiety related to new situations, but shyness goes away after kids warm up and get comfortable with the situation. Separation anxiety or social anxiety does not. That's prolonged. So we notice that that's a distress that happens over a long period of time.
All right, so then we shouldn't need to be terribly concerned if our child is exhibiting shyness. That's something that is very, very common.
Absolutely.
But, and that can be just a part of a child's normal personality makeup.
Absolutely. So it could be part of who they are. I think the concerns, or when we need to be concerned, is when we're noticing that it's causing distress in their daily life routine. So it is something that impedes them from participating in activities such as like playing sports or hanging out with friends. When it becomes a change in behavior that you notice that they're isolating, or physical representations of like not wanting to go to school, or stomach aches and headaches, those kinds of things are when we should be concerned.
Because they really can manifest in a very physical way. It
Absolutely.
really can affect, and they're not putting you on. They're not trying to pretend that they're sick. These are real symptoms that many of these kids are experiencing. Is there any other signs that we should watch out for?
Yeah, so some of the signs, like I mentioned, are some physical representations. You can also notice sweaty palms, some shakiness, some unwillingness to participate in group activities, some physical representations of stomach aches, headaches, even throwing up. And this usually occurs right before a social event is about to occur. And so that's usually how we are able to differentiate between the shyness versus if it's social anxiety.
I want to delve deeper into social anxiety, but before we do this, let's talk just a little bit about the shyness aspect of it. Because being shy can also have some negative effects. It can affect your confidence. It can affect your ability to feel connected with other people. What are some ways that we can do as parents to help our child, not necessarily change their personalities, but help them sustain some self-worth, even if they have tendency towards shyness?
Yeah, encouraging our children to participate in social settings, practicing that even at home, like practicing what a conversation could look like, and then also helping guide them through difficult conversations, providing them with coping skills that they can utilize in moments like that won't interrupt or make it more of a tension or difficulty having those conversations, like taking deep breaths.
But you know, my sister struggled with chronic shyness, and they would actually, my parents would do exercises, you know, where they would, you know, we would kind of do a play like being in a social setting, being at a dinner table, and she looks back on that and some of it was pretty painful, but other moments it really was helpful. But now let's kind of switch gears back to the social anxiety component, because that's something that can be a little bit more serious. What age do we start to typically see some of these signs of social anxiety?
Sometimes we see them in early developmental stages, like right about when they're starting school. We can start to see the signs around 5 or 6. Most common, though, it's between the ages of 8 to 13, and that's when we notice that it is becoming a concern. If they're not wanting to participate in group activities, if they're not wanting to participate or have social interactions, if they're having physical representations of anxiety, such as the sweaty palms, heart palpitations, throwing up, stomach aches, headaches, and it's consistent every time that they're about to attend a social setting. And that's when it becomes concerning.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the triggers. What are some of those triggers, and how can we as parents kind of mediate those that not necessarily can be avoided?
Some of those triggers are starting a new school, attending a group setting where there is a lot of people or a lot of noises. So as a parent, some of the ways that we can prepare is having those conversations with our children before they enter those spaces. Having a conversation of like, this is what's going to happen, and helping them guide them through what they may experience. But I think the most important key is listening. So as a parent, listening to our children and meeting them wherever they're at in that moment.
And is it okay if they just simply don't want to participate, to allow them to have that freedom to say, it's not something I want to do.
Absolutely. With measure, of course, we want to find a balance of like there are some things where they can sit out and it's appropriate to sit out. There might be other things where unfortunately they can't. And so that's where we can step in as parents to provide support and help them, guide them through the process, like going to school.
And you don't have to do it alone. You can certainly have some help with a
Absolutely.
mental health professional too.
Absolutely. Yes. So starting early is really important. Finding resources earlier when you're noticing that there is a change in behavior, that's when we want to target it.
All right.
Because then we're able to then implement change.
All right, so where can we find you?
Yes, absolutely. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook as thecentercounseling.org, and then you can also find us at thecentercounseling.org, our website.
Thank you.